Is there, is it, where's the written policy? Because there's
The policy have the right to vote.
and where's this located?
It's in the bylaws. It's in the bylaws. I can show you in the bylaws. We went through the process of defining what a supporting member is, and it's either donation or volunteer. And for the past 2-3 years, we have done OPA vote, especially because of COVID. And so what we have done is send a ballot to all supporting members. This is not new. Dan, you've participated for the past 3 years. This is really not a surprise, and it is not a change in policy. I don't understand what you have some people who have volunteered for your campaign, and you have not kept track of them. So there's nothing that I can do about it, because that was your responsibility if you wanted people to be counted as supporting members. You know, that is really the responsibility of the chapter.
So Natalie, so can you provide the line item that spells that out in the bylaws, so that people can see it, and then we can decide to move on or not with this?
The supporting members?
Yeah.
Or the supporting members? Yeah, sure. Give me a second. I'll show you on the bylaws.
Let's go straight to the bylaws and share the screen and show us where it explicitly says that it's our policy to do what we started to do under COVID, which is send everybody who's a supporting member, whether they want it or not, are aware of it or not, and so on.
And I would also caution everybody here that nobody's had a break, that we haven't taken a break from the meeting, and that this is going on. And I want people to break. So maybe while that's being looked up,
yes,
we can let people
please.
go.
Now would be a good time, I think.
Yeah, and we can, anybody wants to stay here and chat while we're doing that, that's fine. But please take a 10-minute break.
Thank you. Definitely do that.
Great.
We're going to reconvene at 1:30.
At 1:30, we have our guests. So
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to, we're going to be.
Well, if the vote doesn't happen today, it's because people
then
have a misunderstanding about how the vote has been working, and maybe they don't like it, and we'll have to deal with that. Our guests will be on it.
Lori, I just want to say thank you for your leadership and your vocabulary. I think this is a misunderstanding. I am very willing to unblock, because I like everybody, I try to stay on top of the Green Party process, but I've never known, and I was at the convention 2 years ago, that's when Denise got elected to the SEC, and then, a year later dropped out. But I've never known of this being precedent, not 6 months before, 2 months, or 3 years. It's always been like where we take an OPA vote, and then within, an hour, the results are in. And I think what I'm hearing today, and I agree with the objective, is that we don't want to exclude anybody. We want to be inclusive, right? So Lori, I really appreciate your vocabulary, and we're on break right now. So I was waiting to get unstacked. I just want to also know a general number. Is it 100? Is it 20? Because we know the number on Zoom, which is there's 27 of us here.
Yeah, Chuck, don't you have that? Isn't it like 100
Right.
people?
I haven't seen the list. Justin has the list.
So let's say it's 100 people. And then the other question is that I'll unblock, because I'm not really blocking permanently. I'm blocking just so that we can get these point of order questions done. I would like to see it go to vote, even if the vote is adversarial and winds up, we can fix it in 2 years. It's just, we break some eggs, so to say. But I also want to know that what is the number of hours the OPA vote will be left open? Because that's a big concern. If it's going to be open for 2 or 3 days.
Dan, what was it last time? Like 4 hours, or what was that?
It was forever, but that was because they failed to set it up correctly.
Okay.
And it
Well,
took-
see,
it
that's
took
the thing,
forever to
Joe.
do.
Yeah,
Lori, let me,
Yeah, sorry.
can I you and just clarify?
Anyways, can
one
I agree
little
with
thing?
one more point that I think was Lori, and Dan, you can go. I think Lori's made some really good points. This is misunderstanding. I also think Amy made a really good point that Lori backed up, that we're all adults. And by now, if your email isn't in Nation Builder, it should be. So I think it's fair enough that if your email's in Nation Builder and you've been donating to the Green Party money, that, you know, we can move forward today. I also think Dan's concern is huge. So let's say someone has been giving a ton of time and they're just not a Nation Builder. We are being unfair to them. It also means that we're being unfair to them today. And if this truly is,
Exactly.
and if this truly is precedent, it also means that if we really did indeed do this 2 years ago, which I don't think we did, so we've 4 people on Zoom and another 75 people on email. 2 years ago, if we did do that 25 and 75 split, we're also being unfair to those people that Dan is highlighting. So let's give them a name. Let's call them Jed or you know, I don't know, Jebediah. Jebediah is Dan's concern. Dan's concern is Jebediah put in a lot of time volunteering in Lane County, hates Nation Builder, isn't a Nation Builder, and 2 years ago didn't get a vote and won't get a vote today because they're not on Zoom. So I'll just conclude there.
Who's responsible for that? That's the thing. And
We
at what
all are.
point- Well, yes, but if you want to be included in voting and you know it's by email, then you have
They
to
don't
apply
know that.
one. But
I
Dan made
agree,
the
but-
point.
but,
Dan made the point that
yes.
some people don't have it.
Right.
What do you do for the people that don't have email? Well, you got to send them a
Well,
ballot.
I agree,
somehow,
Lori, but
right?
I didn't know this change had happened 2 years ago. I'm just finding out about it the last 30 minutes. So if I had known we were going to do this, and I agree, it does build inclusion. So we all want inclusion. I would then say, okay, before we send out the next OPA vote in 2 years or, you know, in 6 months where we have our next convention, it is everyone's job to put this on every subgroup, groups.io. We put it in a one-off email saying we've changed our policy. We put it on the old Rise Up, we put it on the old Rise Up lists. We talk about it when tabling or meeting up at bookstores for events. But the problem is, I don't think it was intentionally slipped under the door, but it certainly feels to me that this was slipped under the door. And Dan's concern about this theoretical Jebediah, who is unfairly didn't get a vote 2 years ago and now isn't getting a vote today, is a valid concern. I don't think we're going to all solve it and be perfect, but I just think if we're not hearing each other's concerns and we're just trying to say that we're running out of time, we're just turning into Democrats.
But that's why we've spent the last half hour talking about this issue.
Lori, 2 points. The bylaws don't say anything. You talked about going to check the bylaws. They don't say anything about how absentee voting is to be done. They only say that it may be done under certain circumstances and the SCC shall decide appropriate things. And that's the convention committee was working on this stuff, and I was on most of those convention committee meetings. I dispute the notion that they came up with the idea that this should be done. That's very vague. Ultimately, now because it's not in the bylaws, the convention members have every right to voice their opinion about this. And I find it really surprising that here we are at a convention with a chat or easy methods to just show of hands, not a final vote, but just a straw poll, a temperature check, and see like what all the other 25 people here think about what just the 4 or 5 of us keep bickering about for the half
But that's
an
what I
hour.
was trying to do.
And I proposed several times, that's what I'm saying. Let's just have that show
Right,
of
but
hands.
you got
But
got
apparently
two
it keeps getting blocked.
differing, like, make it short and concise.
My proposal is that absentee voting require registering.
How does that get
For
fixed
the time
today,
being.
though, Dan? And like, what if, so there's nothing in writing?
I'll stand aside to doing it today if it's going to be argued to death, even though I don't agree, but I want to get a temperature check and let the people here like have a say and put it on the record that they
So that
have an opinion, because there's certainly no consensus about this. I think that's
So,
obvious now.
it's, you want to know what people think about anybody that's not present at the meeting, which you would consider the absentee vote, right? That
Right.
requires pre-registration.
Registration required to vote absentee.
You know, it used to be that way back in the day, and people screamed and screamed about inclusive, uh, non-inclusivity, and said that it needed to be much broader and supplied to people, you know, and then it went to the supporters list. And I think that's how that happened, Dan. I do. Because
That
people
was
were
back
saying,
when-
well, it wasn't happening. And then, but you brought up this other point, Dan. Okay, so if you
Okay,
register,
so like we know, the few of us know what we think. Let's just find those things and move on.
right,
That's
well,
all
we're
I'm
on break
saying.
right now. I mean, that's why we're
Okay, but-
chatting. But
I mean, it'll take 2 minutes to just get a show of hands. And then let's just move on from this.
yeah,
and-
well,
and
that's
get
a good
everything else
point.
done.
And but the thing is so when you brought up, so what do you do then? People who don't have email. It's not that they haven't supplied it; they're just not on email. And so how do you propose to handle those? Because remember, I don't. It was like a couple conventions ago. People had to go to somebody else's place and use their computer, right? And it came through on somebody else's email, and it was a lot of jumping through hoops for that. You remember that was being done too, but there's this whole issue of how do people vote if they don't have email too. So it's kind of all there, you know. How are we going to deal with it in the future? So at 1:30 we can. Oh, it's 1:30. So we're going to reconvene, and somebody who's on a telephone only has a question or comment. The last 4 digits of your phone number are 1913. Would you like to say something?
Hello. Oh, I was just putting up my hand when Dan asked for a show of hands. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll take my hand down.
Just hang on for a second. All right. So Dan, I'd like you to once again. So what I'd like to do is what Dan has requested. Go ahead and try for consensus on and say it, Dan.
Who agrees with me, or who thinks that registration for the time being should still be required? Okay, well, there's dispute about whether it's still required. Okay, so who agrees that for the time being, registration should be required to vote absentee?
And would you please put up your hand, signify if you think that should be the way we proceed?
In the future or for this convention?
It would be in the future. I don't think we can do it. Wait a minute, Dan, that's for, you did say it was to fix it, so that's the way it is now on.
There's nothing that's
Or for this
specific in
one.
that question, just who agrees with this in principle for the time being?
I have no idea what that even means or what it does. Also, we've lost Justin. He had to take a break.
Can I make a remark, just to be clear? What Dan is saying and asking is, because we don't have clear rules about this absentee voting business, that we're going to stay with how we're going to say that if you registered to participate in the convention, then that's the ticket to getting the ballot to vote. We can go back to convention committee and we can hash this out about how, if we want to make it a policy to send out our ballots for anyone, then we need to have an explicit understanding that that's what we're going to do. It's never been explicit. It's been a kind of, this is not, so I think we're clear. Dan is simply saying the people that get to vote today are the people that are in attendance and have registered to this.
No, not at all, because that would be a change in policy in the middle of the convention. For the past 2-3 conventions, ballots have been sent to every supporting member because we have always erred on participation. So what Dan is trying to do now is limit participation only to the people who have registered, without sending an announcement that you will not be able to vote if you don't register for the convention. This is so undemocratic. I'm like, I can't believe that we're doing this. That we're even.
How democratic is it to oppose having a vote at convention to decide things that the convention has the last
Because
word on?
because the
This isn't a
supporting members are
complicated
not
issue.
privy to this, and they were not announced. And so what you're doing is basically limiting participation in the meeting without announcing to people that they're not going to be able to participate until they're registered. That
Party
is
business
so
can't be voted on
undemocratic.
absentee
So
anyhow.
So
undemocratic.
what I heard
Well,
proposed before we vote,
let me
yes,
rephrase
please
it
rephrase
precisely.
it.
Okay. Who thinks that in principle absentee voting should be, okay, who thinks that in principle absentee voting should require registration? That is the question. Yes or no? Do you think that in principle absentee voting for the time being should require registration? That is not specifically a proposal to implement it here, just as a matter of principle. And I don't think that everyone is back from break yet. There's like a lot of people.
Yeah, if we're missing Justin, aren't we missing half the convention committee? We really should give him a chance
Yeah,
to return.
Well,
but we're already, of
Brian
the
had
people that
to
are
leave.
here, we've,
Anand had to leave. John had to leave. I mean, if you want
Of all the
this to be
people-
discussed, discuss it at the conventions committee, you know? and
well,
check
I brought that up.
Yeah,
I brought
and it's
that
trying
up.
to limit participation.
I thought
we
it was a
did,
straw vote
unfortunately,
anyway.
It's a straw poll. We're not, this isn't a yay or
yes.
nay.
All right,
Exactly.
I'm going to abstain because A, I'm losing the thread. B, I honestly don't see the relevance at this moment. I'd be happy to pick it up in the future. It's a good discussion to have, but not at this moment, please. There's so much we still have to do.
Well, I
Thanks. And-
see 6 positive votes and we have 1 stand aside.
Out of an unknown number of members present.
Well, that's
Well,
the
may
way
not
it
be-
works, Steve.
It's a significant number.
It's the
Okay,
way it
we don't
works.
know
Now there's 8.
of the number of people present, we don't know. So that's a significant number. We know that this is far from being a consensus and it does need to be discussed. So as a matter of principle, this is not a settled issue. Now let's move on. I'll stand aside and just let things proceed.
I've already said I removed my block 15 minutes ago, but I think the
thank you.
question was raised as we close and move on, is that this is a major concern because it's open for fraud. Someone who has friends who wants to rig the vote, who has Nation Builder access, and Nation Builder is highly restricted and manipulated, and I have the evidence for that, that someone could go into Nation Builder and say, I want to run for SEC, and I have my friend Bob and Barry, and I want Bob, Barry, and me to win the SEC election. They could go in and kind of stuff the roster. They could say, all you have to do is give like $10 because of your income. You're slightly, you qualify for low income donation. So you $10 a year, $20 a year. You go to Nation Builder and bam, you're in. You don't have to show up and volunteer, and we can stuff the roster.
I
And
think that this needs to
this is a
be in
huge
the
concern.
discussion.
Yeah,
So
I agree,
let's
but-
move on.
but
and
I
this
made
is-
my concern raised because someone said this isn't a big deal. And I just said it is a big deal because it allows roster stuffing. It's not ballot stuffing, it's roster stuffing.
So it sounds like something that the convention committee and SCC need to bring back to a future meeting. Let's move into, we have guests.
Am I still on the agenda or am I being bypassed? What's going on?
We have guests that were supposed to show up at
Well,
1:30.
I'm sorry, I can't help the schedule. I've been on the agenda. Green Liberty wants to speak. And what's happening can you share the agenda and tell us where we're at, Lori?
Where we would have been at 12:30, Chuck, was your item.
Well, then let's go to my item.
It is now, we had guests that were going to be here for updates from other organizations, and they only have a few minutes.
Well,
So out of consideration, because these were long-winded dialogues that took place, of which we were all party to, out of consideration for guests coming in. Natalie are our guests here, and they had a few minutes to talk about some important campaign things. And we will go to Chuck's items.
Jeff Anderson, I am here.
Jeff's there. Okay, so this is my opportunity. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And let's select this and let's share. Okay, so can you guys see the Opa Vote screen, preview voting page? Okay, so this is the ballot that's going to be sent out. The Green Liberty Caucus has a series of resolutions, and this is the purpose of these resolutions is to advance a conversation within our party. And there's a link in the chat from the Green Liberty page, and you can read on these things more in more detail. I'm asking for the Green Party to endorse an organization called American Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and it's asking for it's putting Congress on notice to investigate the 60s.
We have our guests.
Yes,
We have our
Natalie.
guests here.
Well,
Hey, Chuck, please, can you just pause? I know you're frustrated. I hear it. I share it. But can we just get our guest speakers in?
let's get our guest speakers in, and then they can tell us what they're doing, and then we can go on. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Would the guests please
Nice to meet you,
announce
Jeff.
themselves?
So nice to see you.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Anderson. I'm here on behalf of Initiative Petition 17, which is the Oregon rebate. And just have a couple of slides to walk through what the Oregon rebate is. You've endorsed the 22 effort that we had to shut down because we ran out of time because of delays in court. But we are so far ahead. We think we're about 15 months ahead, only 2.5 months from petitioning to put it onto the 2024 ballot. Real quick rejoinder about who I am. I've been helping Antonio Gisbert in the campaign as a campaign consultant. I come from a life of politics in Oregon the last 40 years. I'm on a Salem Electric co-op. In the position on that co-op, I was president in '97 when we were the first utility to bring in a wind project through the Bonneville Power Administration. It was very controversial back then, and we put it into the base load. That means we made it as part of our everybody's in it, not this gimmick that PGE did for a number of years where they said, we'll charge you $5 a month. They use the money for advertising. So it goes back to what you see in curbside recycling today. In 1970 through 76, my junior high and high school, I was at a recycle club. That's where we brought 55-gallon drums to the corners of gas stations and collected glass, paper, and metals, and then sorted them, crushed them, and recycled them. That was the precursor. In fact, it's called Help Club, Help Earth Live Permanently. And the goal was to advance ultimately curbside recycling that is somewhat taken for granted today, but it was pioneered back then. Oregon had at least, Albany was #1 in the nation on the Keep America Beautiful contest back in the 70s, when my little town of Dallas, Oregon was #3. So we got 2 of the top spots. So just that's a little bit who I am. I come as the former Secretary Treasurer of Food and Commercial Workers, Local 555, and President of the Northwest Oregon Labor Council, which is over the Portland metro area. I want to share 3 slides, pictures, I should say, real quick, that just kind of highlight where we're at on this initiative. And let's see, add. I hope you can see that first one. Can you use $750? The goal of this initiative is to provide $750 to every person in Oregon. Can somebody tell me if you're seeing that slide?
Yes, I can see it very well.
Thank you. I
I
appreciate
see
that.
it. I see it.
I was concerned about my technology a little bit there.
No, it's very, very
So-
clear.
Well, in fact, we have somebody on our staff on the campaign doing the artwork, and I'm saying I think I want a print of that just to put up on the wall. So the idea is that we take the 7 to 0.8% corporate tax effective rate in the state of Oregon and take it up to 3%. That would provide for a rebate back over to every person in the state of Oregon, $750. That's after the first $25 million of a company is exempted. So it really is hitting the Comcasts, a lot of them. And this would create, I'll show in a later document, a lot of money to the local community, but it would have a dramatic impact on lowering child poverty, especially in minority groups. I should say you guys endorsed it in 22, and I really appreciate that. And if you would consider re-endorsing the IP17, it's the same initiative, at this time with a lot better organization to get us to the qualifying signatures and on the ballot. So the corporate tax, it reduces poverty as seen by 17% in Black communities. The Latinx communities, or it reduces even more substantial 28%, and that's a very large community in our state. The total direct impact is, again, $3 billion. Portland metro area would take 1.8 billion of that infused into the economy. 126 million you can see for Eugene. We actually have this broke down. It can provide for every local community or every local county in the state of Oregon. And we can get you that individual information, how it would impact your own community. Again, I mean, what we're asking is that the Pacific Green Party for your endorsement and continued support. And if you have somebody that would be a point person, we would love to be able to have that person be on our steering committee for this campaign work. But if I can answer any questions, I would love to. I know you've already had this presented at some point. And so, again, I view it as kind of hopeful that it's that we just renew this campaign for 2024 and really advance this. We believe we're going to have the first ballot initiative in the United States on this issue on a statewide basis.
Thank you, Jeff. I know we've heard from the organizers before. Is there any burning questions? We've got to keep them pretty short. Amy? Amy, did you drop your hand? Okay, Natalie?
We will try to identify someone to.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute. Sorry. I was just going to ask Jeff in case I missed it earlier because I had to zip in and out. Is this a pretty much unique idea for the state, or has it been done successfully in other states? Thanks.
This is the first time that it's a general rebate to all people in the state. There is a state version of a rebate. In Alaska, they use the North Slope oil monies and distribute money to all the citizens of Alaska. So this has a version of that, but this is on a corporate basis, not on a natural resource sharing that Alaska does. So this would be the first state to do it. And if you look at the state of Oregon, we have pioneered so many firsts. I mean, from the Oregon bottle bill to your death with dignity. We have so many firsts. Oregon and Colorado have always been the incubator states of innovative ideas and see how they work out. We're the first state to ban, we're actually the first government in the world to ban fluorocarbon propellants in can sprays. And you know, the joke was that the ozone of Oregon, shape of Oregon was protected with the rest of the world, tough luck. Well, the entire world has done that now. So it's kind of a nice, future. And this economic redistribution reflects the fact that globalization has taken away the ability to make a living for a lot of Oregonians. And this would infuse a lot of money. A family of four would get $3,000 a year, and that's a significant impact. People on pensions would get the equivalent of about an 8 to 10% bump for the year, simply by having one or two of them receiving the $750 rebate.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Natalie's
Natalie.
hand is up.
What I was mentioning is, yeah, we would love to have some on the steering committee and leading the connection with the campaign.
So since this has already been endorsed, does it need to be re-endorsed? And if it needs a re-endorsement, can we just do the consensus process, Lori, and just see if anyone blocks, and then recognize on the floor right now that this has an endorsement?
I didn't think that was on the table for today. I
Well-
thought we were on board.
Okay, then you're right. It's not on the agenda. Let's pitch this off for March and make the formal.
We can make a proposal to endorse and approve by the convention.
Okay, so March, Jeff, is when we will formally make an endorsement of this.
I'm making a proposal right now to endorse the campaign.
And are you asking for us to take a vote right here at this convention?
We would
I think
love
that
to.
there's general consensus about this campaign. So we
It's
can
asked for
actually vote,
consensus.
approve it.
I second that.
That's what I proposed.
All those in favor? Yes, Jack. All those in favor, opposed to hand?
Sorry, say that again. I'm losing the sound. People keep fading in and out.
I just got back. What are we doing?
I think that we can just ask for a block, Lori.
We're just testing for consensus on supporting Jeff's initiative on
Oregon rebate.
The Oregon People's Rebate.
starting up again.
And there's a proposal to endorse the campaign, and I think that we should ask for a block because I think that there's consensus on this.
Are there any blocks? Any stand aside? Joe would like the proposal in chat from now on too, whenever it's.
Yeah, just because we might be audited.
Yeah.
Just want to put it in chat, just everything, if we're going to say, hey, let's just do a consensus check, we should just say in chat, here's the consensus check, because that way we've kind of covered ourselves.
Hearing no blocks or stand asides, I would go ahead and let Jeff know that.
Okay, so
And please put that in print now.
Okay, is it okay to lower our hands now?
Yes,
Thanks.
we have one stand aside. Maria. Thank you, Jeff.
So can I just qualify? So you have endorsed the new initiative by this action?
yes.
I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming. We'll try to put, so Connor, can I speak a little bit to the petition drive?
Sure.
So with my communications with Antonio, in the past, a lot of the petitions in the state have hired a company to collect a certain amount of the petition signatures. And the idea, and this has caused some problems in the past. And the idea this time around is to actually hire lead petitioners who will train and gather signatures. So where the petition drive is not going to contract or subcontract to hire signatures, they're going to hire petitioners directly. And anybody who is interested in making a good amount of money in something that they really believe in are going to have that opportunity to do so through the petition drive of Oregon People's Rebate, which is actually something that's kind of new in the way that I think Oregon has done large petition drives in the past. There's been always like a person that's been subcontracted out to a company, but they're going to do that directly. Am I correct?
Yes, we're gone in-house. We're going to pay a living wage to do it. Let's see. I'm putting into the chat my cell phone and my email.
And Natalie, please print up your proposal and that it was approved with one side.
It was approved with no stand aside.
One stand aside, Maria.
Okay.
I put my email and cell phone into the chat for anybody that would like further information or have questions.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll let you guys get back to your business and appreciate your
Thank
time.
you very much for coming.
Thank you, Jeff.
We're really
You
There's
bet.
a
Thank you.
proposal in chat to separate the ballots and send out the ballot now for SBC and national delegates. And then, and while that's going on, Chuck can make his presentation. Is that something that can work, Dan?
Well, they have to be separate anyhow, because only the SCC election can be voted on absentee. So they'll have to, they can't be all sent out. The proposals can only be, they're not authorized for absentee.
yeah. But the convention decided to keep the current delegates and to add you as a.
No, I'm
Yeah, so
talking
we
about
don't have to vote on that. He's talking about
SCC is
SCC.
authorized for absentee. Chuck's proposals are not. The national thing is settled, so we got past that. But Chuck's proposals have to be voted on by the people present. So it's got, even if we do that by email, it's got to go to a different list. So whoever's making, if someone else besides Chuck can work on it, let's get that SCC election.
Chuck, are you
out
on
there,
break or
and-
can you
and
present now?
just try to make sure it's
Are you,
accurate.
I'm going to check the bylaws because I didn't remember like resolutions having to require presence at a convention.
It's not phrased like that. It's simply, there's a bylaw authorizing absentee voting in certain cases. In those cases, I can't tell you the exact phrase, but it's SCC elections, candidate nominations, and ballot initiative.
I'm going to check the
endorsements.
bylaws and put them here.
Please do. Go ahead, Chuck.
Let me
that's
just,
it.
so I'm gonna do my share. Oh, wait a second, hold it. And this is my share. Okay, so basically, here's Green Liberty Caucus there's a ballot that's go out. We're looking for the blessing of the convention. There's resolution to call for investigations. There's a resolution to advance to the National Committee, a standing committee on accountability. If this passes, or whether this passes or not, this is something that conventions committee is going to take up. Natalie had some questions and concerns about it. But I invite people to vote yes in spirit of support. There's a request to endorse a national caucus statement against the COVID mandates. If we vote yes for this, then we would be in solidarity with the Black National Caucus. This is a consumer safety focused language. If we pass yes on this, then I'm asking that this convention communicate to the national and ask the national to endorse the Black National Caucus statement against the COVID mandate. I'm asking for endorse the Liberty Caucus opposition to the COVID vaccines. There's a link right here. And it's basically saying the COVID vaccines are profoundly problematic and should be stopped. Number 6 is an endorse the Liberty Caucus call for a holistic integrative medicine for all. You'll find it in the link there, and there's lengthy discussion about it. So these are opportunities. You'll get this. Take your time to review, skim through them. I'm asking for a vote of solidarity with these measures. Okay, so there's just 6 items, and that's what I wanted to share. And I'm going to stop sharing my list. If people have questions, you can ask them. We're running out of time. I don't think we need to talk about it much. Trust your conscience, show solidarity. This is an opportunity to advance medical freedom and oppose these COVID mandates, which I'm strongly against. And the federal COVID response has been a nightmare for our country. Jack has his
Yeah, I
hand
just
up.
wanted to add to the first resolution that both the King and the Kennedy families petition Congress to reimburse, open those investigations.
Yes. And this endorsement of this committee, from the American Truth and Reconciliation Committee, addresses the 4 assassinations of the 60s: JFK, Malcolm, Martin, and Robert. They could have included Fred Hampton, but they didn't. Thank you, Jack. Okay, let's so here's, I have, there's this whole point of order about who's going to get the ballot. I'm okay sending this out, but I would prefer just to have the people present participate, but we can send it. I don't know how what the final resolution is on who's going to get this. We do need to go back into the conventions committee and clarify and solve the problem that Joe Rowe raised about just seeing these things out and the problem of roster stuffing. And that's kind of a nagging question that I have right now, but I'm done. What's next on our agenda? Jack has his hand back up.
I don't think he took it
I
down.
didn't mean to, but anyway, I would add that, of course, the King and Kennedy families cover 3 of the 4. The only one left out is Malcolm, and I would certainly add Malcolm myself.
Right. I think he's included in that. Skim through it. Okay. Okay, so Natalie is saying in the chat that the roster takes all donors, compares to the registered members, and add the volunteers. Okay. I haven't received the names of the SEC members, so I'm not able to prepare the OPA vote. And now, can 2 people be in the OPA vote at the same time? Because I guess Justin's going to go in and upload the email list to send these things out. Is
The
Justin
list
still
of
on this call?
the list of candidates was there was an abbreviated list in the
Oh, I need the one that we just, and
all right, it's coming.
We're nowhere
when,
near ready
apparently
to
when
send
the
out
OPA vote,
valid ballots.
okay, what,
Just as a
say that
point of
again,
or- Just
Justin.
as a point of order.
I didn't hear what he said.
We're nowhere near ready to send out the ballots.
Are you still cleaning up the list, Justin?
I was never sent the list. I just put a bunch of information in the chat. Ken's hard at work trying to turn what the Secretary of State gave him into a usable format. All I have is a list of donors. That's all anyone ever sent me at any point. And he's got like CSV files he's got to convert to Excel file so he can manipulate the data and sort of filter it out and make it a usable format for us to like verify folks.
See, this is another reason just to, I don't, the thing of sending it out like that.
But that goes
I
for
mean,
like both folks present and folks that would be voting absentee. We would still need that information for ballots in either scenario.
Okay, then maybe we should take our lunch break.
I have a
Susie,
question though,
yeah.
Chuck.
Yep.
I want to know if we're going to know how many people are sent a ballot vis-a-vis how many people respond to that ballot.
Through Opa Vote, you can see how many ballots get opened. Yes, that is shown in the machinery there.
So will that tell me how many ballots got sent out?
Yes, we will see how many ballots get sent out, and we will see how many ballots get opened.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
By the way, I trust Ken. I'm sure he's good at Excel, but if someone wants to send me those tiles, the list of the people from Nation Builder and the list of people Secretary from State, I can just do a quick join query in Access, and then that will make sure that because I have the concern, it's not just roster stuffing, it's also roster mistakes that, Nation Builder, when I was running for office in 2016, I had high level access, which let me run my campaign. But what I found in Nation Builder in 2016, which remains true to today, Nation Builder's data has gotten extremely stale. It's so invalid because the way I know this is when Dan asked me to volunteer for his campaign for Senate a few months ago, I had the fresh data. And boy, if you guys, what I knew, it wouldn't be too happy. So I just want to say that if Ken is struggling with those files, I can do it in like 10 minutes, and then I'll send it to whoever's running Opa Vote. So that way, it's like of a brute force hammer, we could be a bit more surgical with Access or another SQL tool, because this is a critical issue of transparency, that if someone does the
Welcome to reach
database.
out to him. I'm just saying he wasn't very receptive.
No, I know he's probably a little stressed, but I think this is a problem we have every year. And I always offer to it out.
Any of that kind of work that's going to be going on after this meeting too. Thanks, Felipe. Thank you, everybody. We'll reconvene at 2:40.
Hey, Lori. Lori, you just.
Yes.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes.
So I think you mean the other way around, to stop the recording.
Yes. I didn't. I don't even know how the work that.
Never turned it on in the first place that I'm aware of.
And I don't
Yeah.
think Natalie's at her desk.
I am,
Well,
but there is, I think that I'm not the host, I'm the co-host. So I am not able to,
Post it.
which is fine. Mhm. So, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. You want me to speak to that?
yes, please.
So, yeah, I haven't really had a chance to get a hold of Joe. He offered to help sort it out. As I laid out, for those of you that are late arriving from lunch, just logistically, it's complicated. There's like 3 or 4 different lists that we have to compare against one another before we can validate supporting members and send ballots out. So all of this information was whatever, but right now we need to sort all that out. So realistically, I think we should.
I think we should just say, I think we should make a vote of convention that we're going to vote based on the people who signed up to participate and forget this trying to reach this, this is rubbish. All of this,
Well,
this
Let's just separate.
this should have been done a week
Yeah.
ago. I'm kind of irritated right now.
I'm-
Chuck out.
Yeah, because you're responsible.
It's two different.
Natalie, I have none of the keys to the house. You have them all. I have no control over this list business.
Let's not look.
I would
at
have
the blame,
gotten
right?
Joe involved a
The
month ago
issue-
to help us with this, but now we're
All
asking.
right, so I'm gonna stop the back and forth. I was a question about when people, by end of day, Justin, maybe.
I think we need to set expectations that realistically these ballots are probably going to go out toward the end of the convention.
Oh, okay, well,
I'm-
that's
I'm
good.
hoping, like, it just depends on how long it takes to sort through that.
Yeah.
But there's a separate question about ultimately who we want the ballots to go to. We could discuss that. It would definitely be less effort to keep it to folks that registered or are present. But because if we're trying to cross-check it against every email we've got in Nation Builder, that's a tall order.
Yeah, we just need to give people as much time and access to register as we possibly can.
We have two
So-
hands up, Jack.
So
and,
they have
Michael.
enough chances.
I see the hands, but what I don't want to do is discuss this anymore. I want to get to our items on the agenda. This is a timing thing. I just wanted to make sure people would know when they might check their emails for a ballot. And it was decided earlier that a discussion and new approach was going to be coming forth with the conventions committee and how it's going to be taken in the future. Is that correct? Is my understanding correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Can we have a
Okay.
report of why the database processing is so difficult? I'm really having problems grasping why I'm hearing that. You have to talk to Joe or someone about it.
Because it has like there's like three or, there's.
I don't know. I used to do this kind of business and that's just what I used to do. And I just, from what I'm hearing, something's, wrong
Yeah,
with the
because we get the
organizational
list of-
structure and the infrastructure for
I
the
agree.
computation.
I agree.
It's coming
And-
from
and
the
it doesn't
state
seem like a very hard problem to solve.
because we
and
can't,
It's
yeah,
more of a
it's the
simple.
state.
I agree, Michael.
That's what we were
Because we
told.
have to compare our database with the state Secretary of State's base, and we need to make sure also that we include people who are volunteers, right? So there's like
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
Very welcome to participate and be part
I
of it.
don't think I would do that without getting paid. I'm not,
Yeah,
I
that's a
used
lot
to
of
do
work,
that
right?
for
That's-
volunteer for electoral system and crisis. I worked for that Lulu de
Right.
Croix.
You bring up an
But
important point that
anyway,
we are
I
all.
We're all
You bring up an important point
volunteers.
that we are all volunteers. We are all doing this work for free. So before we
Yeah.
get
I
too
donated
judgmental,
money.
before we get too
give me my money
judgmental,
back.
let's just remember that we're all volunteers.
Yeah, and the thing is that the person who had the expertise to produce those lists, the two people, did not communicate well, or they didn't, that's what happened. And so that's why I'm suggesting to have that list, to put a deadline by which that list is produced, right? And that's the problem. I agree, it is a problem.
Jack, did you have something quick to add? Get back to you.
Yeah, we had I'm the National Vice Chair of Veterans for Peace, a working group on Palestine and the Middle East. And we had a similar kind of problem there with people who didn't participate regularly or even at all until it was time to vote on something. And suddenly they would just all miraculously show up to vote, to basically, as Joe said, to stack the deck. And Joe's warnings about the vulnerability of this kind of system are very well taken. And so we established a rule that people had to participate in at least 3 consecutive meetings to qualify to vote.
That's what we have.
All right. We've got the campaign finance reform, legislative and petition updates. Who's got that?
There is this whole thing on the proposal by the Liberty Caucus, and this part here, I'm leaving at 3:30, like I have something else that I need to do. This whole thing here, campaign finance reform, legislative priorities, and the Wage Peace Coalition, that's all stuff that I work. That's my work because I'm doing
Right, did you
grassroots
have an
work.
announcement on that?
Well, if you want to just come to the campaigns committee, because I'm leaving at 3:30, I'm not staying for longer. And we need to decide on, the next convention. The next convention we have is March 11, not 23, not 28. And the convention after that, we need to decide a date. So I think that should take priority because that's mandated
Well,
by
does
our
anybody
bylaws.
have any specific idea about a summer convention date?
Let's do the first Saturday in June.
Oh, no, no, because the elections are May 16. That's like right after the elections.
Where do you then propose a date, Natalie?
I'm saying that June is too early. Can you propose another one? I would
I-
say like August or September.
Okay. Why do we have to make this decision right now?
Because it's in the bylaws.
Because otherwise,
Okay, I see. So let's make it the first weekend in September. After the Labor Day. That would be
That's gonna be a fall convention.
Let's at the third Saturday in September.
That's pretty late in the year to prepare for 2024. Does anybody else have any ideas?
I
What
like
would work
that
for them?
idea, actually.
The
It's
20,
good to have-
September,
It's nice to have a long break.
September,
Party business.
third
when-
weekend, right?
We're in an odd numbered year.
yeah, but
Okay.
it's
I'm not aware that there's even any partisan races being decided in May that we qualify for, and it's just a primary.
it's like all of the school boards. We don't need. It's not a nominating convention. That's something that it's not a nominating convention. It's basically a campaigns convention. It has to do with all of the May elections for school board, water board, local county elections, and the lists of races are not available yet from all of the counties. We've contacted a few of the counties. We're getting ready to recontact a few of the other counties. I'm in touch with Families Forward, which tends to put quite a few really good candidates in the area to support some really good races. We have a couple of races that we already know of. Mike Sonnleiter is supporting his replacement, who used to be or is the chief of staff of Casey Jama, who is very progressive. And so that would be a really good race to get involved in. Stuff like that can be discussed at March to get our Green Party members out and actually do something like campaign, learn how to campaign, meet people. But that's, meet people, get the Green Party visibility with people who are active campaigning. So that's why I think that March date is important.
You mean May or March? Oh, March 18.
It's in March.
Okay.
March 11, actually, sorry. It's not March 18, it's March 11.
Okay, it says 18th on the agenda.
Yeah, no, I just changed it. We had to change it because March 18 is the deadline to file. So if any Green Party members want to file for some of these positions and run for local office, we need to know about it before the 18th.
And
we could run for office locally.
And is there a place where we might supply that information? Where people are interested, they could go to our website or their local chapter website or
What I'm suggesting is for people to attend the campaigns committee meetings on the second Monday of the month, or to contact the campaigns committee, because that's really the best. It's kind of the best way to connect with campaigns.
And so this could be more of a county organizing thing too, where counties.
I don't determine the content of a convention. The March 11 was already decided, right? That's already decided. It's the summer or fall convention that we need to decide for the date for that. And I think that it would be better for us to do it like what you're suggesting, Chuck, like at the end of the summer, like early September, might not be a bad idea.
So they were,
So
they
that
were saying the third weekend.
third weekend in September. That might, I mean, that probably could work. What's going on in, anybody else has any idea further? Let me just look at the calendar and give you the date for September.
And while you're doing that, it sounds like you were already going over the one item for May 16th elections. So, you know, that kind of got sorted out too, unless there's any other info.
I can add to that. I can sell the idea of the May 18 election or the convention is very important, and we should use that to invite our neighbors, our friends to run for office under the Green Party platform, so we can expand the movement, because those are going to be about issues that touch personally your friend, people that live in your own neighborhood. And I suggest that we look for people that are not organized on the Green Party and try to convince them that they are a good candidate for position A, B, and C, and that will attract that person to the party. It's a good opportunity to grow.
September 16th.
That sounds good.
I want to let you know that September 16 is Mexican Independence Day.
Hallelujah.
Just putting it out that there may be celebrations. So if you want to target or invite people from Mexico, it may not be the best date, but that's totally fine. We can't invite people as long as we have poor behavior.
All right, so we've got that. What about what else do you have, Natalie? Are you the Wage Peace Oregon Coalition?
Yeah, we've been meeting, and we have quite a group of people identified. We have some basic principles where we're going to be organizing around. And the idea is not for us to like create events or to do things or create things, but really to support organizations that are already doing work on the ground. For example, to participate in Pride Parade, in the Women's March and things like that, but to bring that umbrella of to be present and support these organizations as a coalition, bringing peace signs, because a lot of the coalition, what we want to do is also educate people about the size of the military budget, the fact that they've failed their audits, where all of the bases are, et cetera, to really do education. And then aside from supporting existing organizations, and then, this whole military, the excess military equipment is actually being dumped into the police departments and building jails and all of that. So it affects people on the ground and that military aspect of policing, but also because it sucks the resources out of behavioral health, healthcare, education, et cetera, et cetera. So I've spoken with Latin organizations and also with likes of PDX and things like that. And they are very, very interested in working together and doing that. So we would be supporting their work and their event under this peace umbrella, this whole part. And then we were thinking about a few targeted events, like for example, May 3rd is International Freedom of the Press Day. So doing something around the Julian Assange, we're talking about initiatives like that. And so right now we drew our principles, we are creating the website, and we're getting to start organizations to endorse and participate. We are rekindling a Code Pink chapter in Oregon and looking into forming a 501c3 so we can fundraise for the coalition. So there's work in the way. By the way, I just want everybody to know that the other person who's working in the coalition is Emma Lugo. So Emma and I are working very closely with this. And there are a couple of people, some organizers from Code Pink, from the Divest from the War Machine campaign, and also World Beyond Wars. We have Veterans for Peace, we have PDX, Don't Shoot PDX, we have There are quite a few organizations in the Rural Organizing Project, which is that Latin organization that actually work on peace issues. So we're trying to make it broad. So that's just a little, but it looks really interesting because so many things can be tied to the money spent in the military.
Dan, do you have a question or a comment?
Comments from what Natalie just said, it sounds to me that there's the usual risk of peace movements in the U.S. being easily co-opted by the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Major parties do this all the time. The elephant in the room in the war right now is what's going on in Ukraine. And we've been dumping tens of billions of dollars of weapons, like $100 billion approaching in aid. And the movement in the United States is generally more or less either ignorant about what's going on or lacking in principle about what our objective should be, what our responsibility is, which is responsibility for the actions of our own government. We understand in principle that our government initiated the coup in 2014 and that we are the worst violator of international law. So we don't have the standing to be condemning other countries for what they do. We're throwing stones from a glass house. It's our responsibility just to get us out of it and to stop prolonging it. It's a tragic war, and it's being prolonged because that we are taking this position that we can fight to the last Ukrainian.
Yeah, preaching to the part. Yes,
it's almost it's like a subtle form of genocide. But the movement gets infiltrated by people that keep talking about side issues. Well, it's the budget. Well, no, it's not really the budget now. And they do give their weapons to the police, but they've given a lot more old stuff to Ukraine now, and they're going to be.
And it includes also the stance against Israel, Israel in Palestine, the Tigray problem, Yemen. I mean, there's totally in agreement, totally in agreement.
But it's behind the times, and what's going on right now is a severe crisis in which the Cold War, it's almost like it's the 1950s again, or early 1960s.
We're totally aware of it.
It's a really dangerous situation, and people need to be paying attention to that.
Amy.
I don't think it's 2002 anymore, and I don't think Democrats even pretend to be anti-war anymore. I feel like they've probably lost interest in infiltrating us because it seems like they've elected a lot of spooks and a lot of people that are very tight with the military. So I don't know. That's just my observation. And I'd go back further than Dan. I mean, Bill Clinton was buddy with Yeltsin, and what Yeltsin did paved the way for Putin. And it's really sad that so many people waving these damn Ukraine flags have the memory of goldfish. But not sure there's anything we can do about that because this is an urgent issue. And yeah, a big part of the issue is our money and how it's being misappropriated by an entity, the Pentagon, which can't even be responsible in an audit or stand up to any kind of scrutiny. There's billions of dollars accounted for. I feel all that's important, but I don't think that, based on my observation, Democrats even give a flying leap about that anymore. Just my two cents.
Chuck?
Yeah, very briefly, I want to pick up on Dan's. I would ask Dan to say, or for us to think about how can the Green Party in Oregon, make a strong message in this anti-militarism thing that is specific to, I think we need to make a very strong anti-NATO, that NATO is a belligerent, an imperial project, and that we explicitly somehow show that. And maybe Natalie could take that message into the Code Pink work that she's doing, for example. And I'd also remind people that when you vote on you have an opportunity to vote on Green Liberty Caucus themes. And one of them is medical freedom from big pharma domination. The COVID project, is turning out, has been advanced by the Department of Defense, overseeing health and human resources, under which is CDC, FDA, NIH. So this is a serious, when we say we're anti-militarism, we need to be nuanced about that and understand that the whole SARS-CoV-2 is in fact funded through Department of Defense grant monies. So when you say you're for medical freedom and you're opposed to big pharma domination, you are in fact extending the anti-militarism plank and principles of our party. And so on. I just wanted to share that. And Dan, I'd like to know what a message could sound like from the Green Party that would, communicate what you're getting.
Well, actually, because it's 3 o'clock, I'd like to know when we're going to start voting, because we can vote on your proposal.
Yeah, later. That's garbage. Yeah, we should have a.
It is
report
later.
from Joe or Justin about the status of the.
All right, here. All right. I heard my name and I'm looking on it right now. I'll share my screen a little bit. I don't want to share private data of everybody.
Yeah, can you hold a second?
I'll hold.
Let's Bob, can you pause recording because?
Oh, I'm not going to show
the-
anything. Yeah, and make sure we record this part and maybe back up just. Okay, back up. Can you back up just a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I was saying is that going to the agenda, we talked about the Wage Peace Coalition. We meet on Wednesday evenings. I really encourage us to be active. May 16 elections, identifying races, encouraging Greens to run. Contact the campaigns at cificgreens.org and come to the campaigns committee on Monday evenings at 8 o'clock, second Monday of the month. And the Fair Shot for All is this legislative action that I urge us to participate. It's a set of four legislative initiatives. The one that's really hugely important is Defense of Humanity, which is to establish pay parity for defense attorneys, because right now there's not enough public defenders and they don't get paid enough. The workload is huge. And this is going to give you the details of the legislature. We have to pass this. We also have to pass the stable homes for Oregon families. It's a series of six laws regrouped to prevent homelessness. The coalition that's pushing this is very large. And when you go, I'm going to ask the steering committee to invest in like hats and buttons so we can start being very active when we participate in these things. But I really urge us to press our representatives to get involved with these coalitions, to be visible, develop the relationship with other organizations on the ground. And basically that's it.
Thank you, Natalie.
The campaign finance reform initiative, we are the two of the initiatives passed the ballot, the court's challenges, and we're about to start collecting signatures. That's for campaign finance reform on the ballot in 2024. And there's a lot of shenanigans in the legislative part. We're trying to prevent bad bills from passing to kind of co-opt or undermine the petitions, basically.
That's good. Chuck, did you have a question on anything, any of that, or a comment?
No, I'm going to pass.
Ranked choice voting. Blair's ranked choice voting.
I understand that there's a petition drive that's going to go forward, but it's very likely, or it's very possible also that Dan Rayfield, and through the legislation, they might refer it to votes directly. They might refer it to the ballot directly. There is star voting is also has an initiative to go on the ballot, and there is a independent redistricting commission, which is going to be on the ballot. They're working to gather petition signatures. So there's a package of campaign finance reform, ranked choice voting, and independent redistricting commission. Those are three petitions that might be on the ballot in 2024.
Hey, can I jump in for sake of point of order? I really want people to see, we've kind of got to make maybe a group decision based on the data that I just got, which it's good news and bad news, but I'll be very brief. So you don't have to be a data person to understand this, but what you're looking at here is we have a concern of 41 people who Ken sent me. These are people where they somehow got into the data, and the problem is the data is kind of dirty and I'm cleaning up the data, but the data came from Ken and Ken got it from Nation Builder, and Nation Builder has issues. But these people you see, we're just seeing some first names and last initials. So this is not like horribly, we're not disclosing anybody's personally identifiable information, but these people should not be getting ballots because the Secretary of State says they're no longer registered green.
Okay, perfect.
So, but the question is, now we've got even more cleanup to do. And we've got to take the volunteers from the Lane County, like that would include me. I'm registered green and I volunteered for Dan, so I should get a ballot. I also registered for the Zoom conference, like 4 days beforehand or whatever. So now I need more data so that we can finish this and get the OPA vote. And by the way, this isn't private, but you can see what I do is I take our small list of data of people who we think we should get ballots. I compare that to the Secretary of State doing these fancy things, and then I write some SQL. But I don't know that we're going to be able to get the ballots out in the next 4 hours.
4 hours? Why
This
4
is
hours?
because I've got to get all the emails of everyone. I haven't. None of this data includes the emails.
Aren't
Like if
you-
you go
don't
to
you
some
sync
of
it
these.
with the nation?
No, because
builder
what Ken
data?
sent me doesn't have email. So we're going to have to like, it's just, we're learning as we go. But again,
I know-
notice here, what I've got are things like the first name and last name. And if I go here to the Secretary of State data and I go to design view, here's what Ken sent me. You can see right here. Ken sent me first name, last name, middle name, birthday, but no email.
Yeah,
So
because
how-
what we
May I?
need to do is we need to compare.
Can I say something here? I really need,
Jump
I
in.
have only sent the list from the Secretary of State's office. Those are registered voters. That's all I have. I also have the list of donors that I sent. I can get their emails, but very few of them are at this meeting. So, and I have no idea where the list is for people who registered for this meeting.
Okay, let's pause there.
It's
Can we pause there? No, but wait. I just want to pause. Ken has 2 valid questions, and now the only thing we should talk about temporarily is who has Nation Builder access to pull that data and get it to me of people who registered for the convention, and then where are we going to get the money donors in here? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my data work and I'm gonna mute myself.
I just want to say I'm a test case. I registered and I'm a donor. And I registered for the convention. I'm 7 years continuous PGP with the Secretary of State, and I'm a donor. I don't expect a chapter to have, put me on their list of volunteers. So make sure I show up. I'm a
Michael,
test
are
case.
you Michael Guzzi or
Yeah,
Michael May?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, good news is, this is great. So let's pause here. Michael, you're currently on the list to get a ballot. You did show up as a conflict with the Secretary of State. The problem is, I need to talk to Mike so someone can call me. Now we need to get not just Michael Guzzi's email into the system. We need to get everybody's email. And then once we have the email, we can start voting in 5 minutes. Then you pop that
Michael
into.
Guzzi registered for this
but when I
meeting.
registered,
I know, but okay,
when I
correct.
registered, my email was put on that Nation Builder. No,
I know,
when I
but
registered for the
nobody-
convention, you have my email.
See,
It's-
here's the problem.
But I get it.
Michael-
Ken didn't
Mike-
give it to you. I understand database. Don't
Yeah.
lecture me. I'm done.
I'm not. I'm just saying Mike did his job by registering, but someone else is gatekeeping and that we don't have that email list. yet.
Natalie has it.
Right,
from
I
Well,
get it.
Natalie,
from the
get it to
Nation
me. Get it to me or get it to someone.
Okay. I'm just downloading that list and I'm just about to send it to you.
I need to say something.
I just want to mention that I delegated the creating of the list. And also I delegated the the manual for absentee and all of that, the creation of the manual to Chuck and leading the effort and Justin. So I really don't want to be blamed for anything because everybody's like Natalie this and Natalie that. And
No one's blaming
one's
you. We just gotta
blaming
deal
you.
with-
No one's
we're just
blaming
trying
you.
to get this job done.
Yeah.
So we just need that list. And then
Yep.
the only other thing, real quick, I'm sorry, Chuck, is I think it got Dan. I think it got lost in the chat. I forwarded him. I found in the email your list of folks that you were, I don't know what the word is, but basically vouching for as volunteers. So Joe, you should have that list as well. So we have they have to be both the registered green as of the list that Ken sent you, which doesn't have email addresses. And it has to match either the donor list or the volunteer list provided by Dan. Or if any other chapter submitted a list, Joe's going to need that information. And then only those people will need to decide who's going to get a ballot. So yeah, Natalie's providing that email list, I guess.
I
I
need to
would be a
take,
lot more comfortable if two people were doing this simultaneously.
Yeah. I could fire up a Zoom if someone wants to audit me while I'm doing it.
no, I need to say something.
Go ahead.
I never agreed to this absentee voting method. Natalie suggests I did. I never have.
We
And
hear
no
you,
one-
Chuck. We hear
No
you.
one, listen to me.
Okay.
The original understanding, and Justin explained it, and this is what we discussed. Dan was there, committee, that we would participate through registration. And the implication of that is if you register, then you get to participate and you get to do the voting. This idea that we're gonna somehow look at what it's taking.
It's in the bylaws.
No, the bylaws does not say clean up
does
the
say
list
absentee
and
vote.
send everybody
Natalie,
on the
wait
list.
till he's done. Wait till he's done.
I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna go back to the conventions
And
committee.
you can
I'm gonna
go to the,
insist.
you,
I'm going to
as-
insist that if you don't register, you don't get to participate in the voting. If you're gonna do absentee voting, you need to explicitly request it in your registration in the event itself. That's where I'm at, and I'm at the position where Dan was earlier in the day, that the people who get to vote are the ones who have requested the absentee ballot and have registered to participate. Chuck out.
I'm just going to put on social media that if you agree with limiting participation to people who just register and to show up at the meetings, and also to know that some people in the Green Party are trying to limit participation. Like if you work on Saturdays, you might not be able to make it to the convention. And people to like Paige just registered to the convention, so she would have been excluded. And also this is, you can look at the list server on the conventions, Chuck, because we talked about it for the past month. I've requested clarity on this.
I disagree. I think
But it's
if
in
you
the
don't
it's in the
register-
list server. It's in the list server for the conventions committee. So you know, you and I spoke in the
No,
past
we
two steering
never-
committee.
It's productive. Let's go to
At this
Amy.
point, we could end, this meeting could close down, and we could just, by a show of hands, say, if you participated
No,
today,
because
Well,
people are not
look,
informed before the
meeting's
convention.
About over. I mean, we've hit all of our items. This is like, we're trying to get done with figuring out this vote. The vote is what it is this time.
Yeah.
Please work together to clean it up and change it for next time.
unless,
I mean, there's no reason to picking each other
Exactly.
apart. I will speak over you. No reason to pick at one another. Let's just get through today and then fix it. Because everybody knows how they're going to fix it and approach it, and we can all decide together to prove at that point. Amy and
Joe,
Dan.
did you get the link?
It's
Joe,
all
did
right,
you get the
Laura. You
link?
kind of beat me to it. I was really hoping to make the same point.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I love it.
So I have Dan and Suzia and Felipe had his hand up, but now it's down.
By the way, point of order, a question was asked. Joe, did you get the email or the list? And the only message I
In the
got,
chat.
oh, it's in the chat. Okay, sorry, I was looking at my email. Hold on.
Sorry.
You talks amongst yourselves.
What do you got, Dan?
At this point, this is like, I don't think it's the second, maybe not even the third convention where the voting just completely fell through.
I agree.
It took forever. And I think the concerns about people that didn't register being excluded are kind of obviated by greater concerns about people who took time and trouble to sit here for 6 hours straight, and we still can't get the ballots out and are starting to leave the call, are now at risk of being excluded unless they happen to their ballot or notice when it's sent out and are busy with something else. You completely screwed up. Okay, and a volunteer organization needs to be cognizant always of what is within its ability to actually pull off and function well. And I think that this form of absentee voting is, now I ran our first implementation, at least in the modern era, of absentee voting back in June, the June 2020 election. That's when we first started using it for for our convention then, for the nominations between Hawkins and Hunter. It went well, and we weren't doing it this way. It's not going well now. Now, rant sounding thing over, Chuck's proposals are not eligible for absentee since they're resolutions. So is there anything barring us from just voting on them by show of hands here on this call and at least getting that done?
I'd prefer not to do this today. I'd prefer to table it
We-
for
we
a
ha-
later time when we're all a little less fatigued. I'm not saying it's not a worthwhile discussion. I'm just saying this isn't the time now to make such an important decision.
So, Dan, I thought that Chuck, didn't you just presented your items were supposed to be on the ballot, right?
I'll say that again.
You just went over
We can
the
vote on
items
Chuck's
that
things
we,
right now.
yeah, his stuff is going to be on the ballot.
Yeah, what Dan, but
The complication is that they have to load those ballots with two different lists because Chuck's vote is not eligible for absentee. And if we just go through it item by item and just take a quick show of hands here right on this call, that we can have, if we just get busy with it.
I'm
and
not
we can have
comfortable
it
with
done in
that.
10
Too many
minutes.
people have left. As a facilitator, I'm not comfortable with that. I'll block it. As a facilitator, I'm sorry. No, they go to the vote and we, like I said, you've got a bunch of people now know what they're doing that have volunteered to do it. So I say fix it from now on. We'll get through today and it's going to be a late vote and hopefully everybody's going to get their ballot and be able to vote. But everybody's expecting their ballot to be what it is. And I don't want to send them half a ballot.
Okay, Susie's got her hand up, and Dan, let's sort of keep your hand up if you have something more to say, Dan. Joe just raised his hand. Joe, are you ready to share something?
Yeah, we're making great progress, but it's, it's like eating an elephant. We're 3/4 of the way done. So the next question is, while we still have a decent amount of people here, I can't predict whether this will take 40 minutes or 90 minutes, but we need to decide how we're going to communicate to people that they should check their email and search their email for the OPA vote link, and then they cast their ballot, because we're going to vote on the long-term positions. I believe there's 3 long-term positions. There's going to be a separate ballot, I believe, for the short-term position. I think that's a good way to do it. And then there's going to be a separate ballot for Chuck. Chuck, are you lumping all your items into one vote?
Yes.
Okay, then there's going to be the separate ballot for the vote of Chuck's, or I should just call it the Lane County. I don't want to personalize it, but I'll just call it the Lane boatload. And I'm getting closer, but I think you guys, while I'm working, you should all discuss what, I don't want to be in a discussion, but what would be agreeable once we get the list kind of cleaned up.
Joe, I'd like you
It's
to
not-
call that the Liberty Caucus, not Lane.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the Liberty Caucus. I apologize. I knew I was making a mistake. I'm kind of like
There's a
balancing
comment,
lot.
Joe, there is a comment in it will go along with what you just said. If somebody doesn't get their ballot, they contact and how.
Right.
Now, how do they get their ballot? That's number 1. Number 2.
Can you guys, I'm gonna mute things for a minute. Can you guys talk about that while I'm doing my work? These are all,
Susie had her hand up. Can we go to Susie? And then I'd like to share, and I'll be brief, and then Dan still has his hand up. Susie, are you there?
I don't have my hand up anymore, Chuck. I said what I
Okay.
wanted to. Thank you.
Okay, so we could go back to Dan's thing and by convention right here, agree that all the people that registered and anybody who asked for an absentee ballot would get a ballot to vote. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And then we can go back to convention committee and get real clear on what's going to be this process and the timeline for getting this list cleaned up and ready to go. Because this is a job, effectively running the OPA vote, and this list should have been done a week ago. And I have no keys to the nation builder. Unfortunately, Joe wasn't brought in earlier, and now he's showing how useful he is. And I hope you all give him a vote on the SEC. I think we should just say by show of hands, we're gonna only vote this season, this convention, those who registered. Chuck out.
No.
I don't feel it's time appropriate.
Another thing we could do, I'm not going to jump on the debate, but another thing we could do, you know, you can talk about what Chuck said in a minute. Another possibility is we take the very clean data, which I just got from Natalie. It's all in the chat. Out of privacy, don't share those. That's private data, so no one should share that link. Oh, she shared it just with me. Sorry. So in the chat, I got the clean data for everybody here. We could do a first vote, like right now with that data. It can be put into OPA vote right now, and I'll make sure that everybody is registered with the Secretary of State, and then people can volunteer if they feel that they don't qualify for the money threshold or the time threshold. And that vote can go out in 10 minutes because the data is clean.
Does everybody here have an email?
Well, yeah, it is in there. Yeah. So just let me finish. So then after that vote, OPA vote is done, another OPA vote would be done. And we'd somehow have to like calculate the results because we're doing kind of ranked choice voting. But we would have to see how many of the secondary vote people. The secondary vote people would be people who had gotten to register for the convention, but still qualified under those other criteria. And then we would have to kind of manually like do the instant runoff thing because we use I forget it. Justin, you're running the OPA vote and you do the settings for the who's doing OPA vote, because the OPA vote's very complex. You have to say whether using like the Swedish
We
runoff.
selected
or
the
this runoff.
MTV one.
Okay, great. So who's doing that? You, Chuck?
I am.
Okay, so if suddenly we did the vote here at the convention, which is I got the data right here of how many it is from Natalie. That's about 40 people. If the results from the second vote were drastically different, then what we'd have to do is just print them out, and we'd have to all meet up and calculate the results in a week and it might not be a bad experience where we lay them on a table and we do that Swedish calculation in person. Right. Does that make any sense?
No, but I'm willing to follow your lead on anything.
Well, I'm going to go back to work, but you guys keep discussing.
Well, I think Dan's got his hand up automated in my experience.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump for our OPA vote. Will decide who is the winner in order, first, second, and third. So it's no recount needed. That's why we're paying for OPA vote, I think. And I will add that I'm so happy that all these problems are rising in this election, because now we know where what the problems are, and as soon as we can, we should fix this for it never happen again. And that's it. Let's allow the people working to make the voting process best we can, and be patient, and all the solutions that everybody, including have in our head, let's keep it for the times.
Dan?
Okay, so ordinary classic instant runoff is not generally used for multi-winner elections because it doesn't end up approximating proportional voting as well. And there's a lot of vote wasting. So I think what they were talking about is not Swedish, but were you talking about Scottish single transfer, Scottish STV? That's what OPA vote defaults to. In elections with few candidates, it's actually better to use Meek STV, which is more precise in distributing the votes. What this does is it sets a threshold based on the number of candidates and the number of seats available and the number of voters. And anyone who gets more than that threshold is declared a winner, not the winner, but a winner. And then their extra votes are distributed down ballot to the second and third choices of a proportion of the people that voted for them, not all of them. And it's hard to explain without seeing a result in practice. But once you see the result, it tends to make perfect sense. And there's no need to split it into two separate elections. In fact, I would suggest that would, if the candidates themselves haven't actually specified whether they want 2-year or 1-year seats, then that might be counterproductive. But I think one way we did it before in one of the last 2 conventions was using the TV. You could either have the first 3 winners get the 2-year seats, and then the last winner gets the 1 year, depending on how many 2 years or 1 year. You can decide among themselves who wants it, and if they can't decide, then just draw it randomly.
They're all up to 2 years.
All okay. So yeah, so then it's right. 4 winners,
Right.
7 candidates.
It looked like that.
4 winners.
You're muted.
got-
Sorry,
Justin,
guys. I think we have to remove Diane and Devin.
which would
Okay.
make 7,
Felipe.
right?
and
1, 2, 3.
Joe.
Whoever they are.
There's 6.
Isn't Susie running?
Oh, Susie, did you want to run this? We never got Susie to.
I can go either way, guys. I thought I was done at the end of this term, actually, but I'm
You
happy
were.
to serve.
You were asking if you want to run again.
Sure. But I haven't answered those questions.
Why don't you give us a brief share out?
All right, well, if I were to be elected again, this would be my 4th time on the SCC, which is a lot. You know, Charles, I'm so glad to see you here. I feel like in the 2 years I've been here, we've lost a lot of our history, which concerns me. And I would say if there's any reason to run right now, it would be as a part of the history, which could be a benefit or a disadvantage, honestly.
Okay, so we're going with the, anything else to add, Susie, about, say about your personal passions?
I
or
guess
interests
what
and
I
so
would
on?
like to say is, you know, I mean, I'm not convinced politics are going to change the world. And I put hundreds of hours into medical freedom, which is not sanctioned by this group. And I'll continue to work for that because I think it's super important for all of us. Whether anyone else agrees with me or not is kind of not so relevant to me, but it's important that we all have a voice. And the First Amendment, I started a radio station and a TV station, so I have a real passion for First Amendment issues. And the First Amendment has been so attacked in the last 2 or 3 years that if I can help by being on the SCC with that, I totally will. The end.
Thank you.
Bill, did you have something? Bill, do you have a question or comment on me?
Yeah, here I am. My question is, I have a list of candidates and I only have 6. I just want to run it down really quickly and see who I'm missing. I have Amy, Chuck, Felipe, Natalie, Joe, and Susie.
For the SEC.
Yes.
Well, Felipe is not printed there.
I'll go to the,
You missed T. Oliver.
So
Where are the
I
names?
haven't heard, I don't remember hearing.
And
his.
Joe? Yeah, Joe's on there.
And Joe.
Did he give a presentation? I don't remember it.
He did, yeah.
Joe did.
Yes, William, I remember you even asked me a question. And I remember that you were very happy with my answer.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so the work on the vote continues, and we could do a little bit of review for today while we're letting them grind through the numbers. I didn't see support for changing anything last minute for how the votes counted at this convention, but it certainly looks like it's going to be fixed. So a couple things. Well, what did we do well today? Any comments?
I think we managed through the disaffiliation thing really well. I think we worked through that and we came to a, the group talked together, worked together, and we've kind of kicked the can down the road, but we've kicked it down towards mediation. So I think the group did that very well. Check out.
You are muted, Lord.
Probably good. So any other comments on, what people think about the meeting, and also what we could do better with the obvious elephant in the room of the vote issue?
Well, I appreciate the hard work people have been putting in. I'm sorry we couldn't head off the snafu. I know people sincerely tried. We did have a warm-up meeting just a few days ago. Obviously, we need to have a few more of those the next time we know there's a convention looming. And folks in the chat are expressing concern that they might not get their votes or they might not know when they arrive. I hope that's not the case and that everybody who wants a ballot gets one.
All right, I need to jump in quick. And this is because we're getting lists of valid voters from so many places. So here we go. This is the cleanup of people that the Lane County chapter has said are eligible for voting, but they don't match with the Secretary of State data. So Maura Fields, Marv, do you spell your name as Marvin? Because I can adjust this, but what does the Secretary of State think your name is spelled at? Jana LeBaron, there might be an extra space in there. John Q. Murray. Again, this is just the nature of data chaos. Susan Stein, Justin Beth, Lawrence C. Wick, and Dennis Boyer. According to the Secretary of State, there might be that they're registered as Democrat or there's a name mismatch. So Marv, we can take a look on that. Is Marvin still here?
He was here.
Or maybe Dan, could you communicate privately with Joe?
Yeah,
Joe, this is Ken.
Yeah.
And Marvin Sanis, I believe in the registration would have SANDNES. Okay, because that's his legal name.
Okay, great. But when I got the list from Lane, I got it from Justin, who probably got it from Chuck or someone in Lane. This is the chaos with spelling names right. I mean,
yeah, and Jana LeBaron, that's not her real name.
See, this is the chaos.
Yeah, I know.
I just, can I pause here for a second because I'm having anxiety and it's blaming no one.
Okay.
But we didn't used to have this anxiety throughout the years in San Francisco or in Oregon because we had a strict rule that if you're going to come to the convention, you register and then you vote. And then somewhere, I don't believe it's the truth, but somewhere someone said 2 years ago, we magically changed the process to bring in this whole group of people who are not here, didn't want an absentee vote, probably don't know how to spell their names or names get mixed up. It's absolute chaos here at my desk. So who's the name who doesn't use their real name? Susan Stein?
No, Jana.
Jana LeBaron.
Okay, and what is their real name?
I
Who
forgot.
knows?
Joe,
but-
Joe, I can look these up for you real quick on the May list. Jane, I'll tell you her real name privately. Maura.
All right, well,
that's
here,
not-
here's what I'm
can
gonna do.
you-
I'm gonna put them in chat. I'm just gonna copy and paste them
Straight
into
to
chat.
Dan, please. And
And-
could you guys keep this in private thing?
Yeah, but
I
these
have-
names,
I have
these
lots of
names
hands.
need to be cleaned up, and I'm gonna keep working. You guys keep working. I'm gonna mute again.
I have Barbara and then Charles and then Bill, and Justin was waving his hand, so we're gonna.
Really cool.
Barbara first.
Super fast. That list is the October list. It's the most recent one we could have, and have people eligible. So that's the October list. All right.
All right. What happened to you, Barbara?
I'm unmuting. Thank you very much. It's the first time I'm speaking at the convention, so thank you for your patience. I enjoyed it all. I've been on worse Zoom meetings. In fact, I probably helped run one of the worst Zoom elections that was like written up in the Eugene Weekly. So I just want to say that we're all here and just appreciate our presence because it does take a lot. Take some time to sit through. Fortunately, it's cold and rainy here, at least here in Eugene. So to be in front of a warm video screen is a pleasure. And we will do better next time because the next election, they're gonna like reach out to me and say, Barbara, would you be a support technical person to prepare the voter list 2 weeks before the convention? And I will say, yes.
So Dan, I hope you're writing all these names down. I know we have Felipe and Joe's gonna help and Justin and now Barbara. Sounds like a really good solid group coming together for this fix up. Charles and then Bill have questions, comments on not sure if we're back to the agenda.
I was just going to endorse Chuck's point that the big win was getting through the disaffiliation issue. I'm very pleased with the way that turned out. Because it had me kind of scared.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Bill, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just an observation. I know people get passionate, and when the discussions get hot and heavy, people feel compelled to get their point of view out there, even though somebody else is already talking. And there's been a lot of requests not to interrupt, but people still interrupt. So I would just ask everybody to, if you feel that urge to speak while somebody else is speaking, just take a breath and try to be patient, and you'll get your turn.
Thank you, Bill. That was good. Anything else that anybody wants to add in, and then we can just kind of monitor the vote stuff, and our meeting will be wound up technically, except for this last bit of vote.
I can say that I'm impressed. Wow, sound bad. I'm impressed that the way that we could manage to have a guest, have a nice and quiet moment listening to the speaker, and then when that was done, we just move on and continue as usual. So we are adults and we can behave when we have to. So I think that's a good.
Thanks, Felipe. Well, I'll say I'm glad everybody came and showed up, and I'm really super glad that people are going to work on some of these issues, especially we do definitely want to clean up the voting. That it's been messy and hard, and we're always going to make some kind of mistake. It's seems like we've got really good people working on it. So that would be something I could say, and I also appreciate both sides of the affiliation issue. I appreciate that both sides are willing to work together, and I'm hoping that everybody gets some sort of satisfaction from the process that we're going to attempt. I've got Charles and Bob. Charles, did you have something else, or is your hand
Uh,
up?
I did just, how do we know when the ballots go out?
I think Joe
Or
was
is that
still.
gonna happen while we're in session?
Yeah, I think Joe's still inputting stuff and trying to finish the
Yeah.
cleanup, and he was getting pretty close. So we'll come back to that soon. Maybe Justin can keep an eye.
Okay.
Bob.
I would say
Oh,
just-
sorry.
I was just gonna, yeah, we'll just have to wait on Joe to give us an update, or if you don't want to hang on, I would just suggest, just check your email. I think we want to give people ample time to respond. So that could be a point of discussion, how, when are we gonna cut off voting? I don't think we've said or decided that.
No, and that's one of the things we're going to keep talking about. And also, who do people contact directly if they didn't get their ballot by some certain time? Bob?
Oh, by the way, can I interrupt for a second? I'm going to share my screen again. We might want to stop recording just temporarily. Can we do that? Who's ever recording?
Yeah.
I don't even know if we're
Hold on.
recording right now. I can never tell when recording.
It still is.
Okay.
The red light is blinking. in the
Yeah.
top left corner.
Bob's shutting it